Good morning, students. So today we are moving into yet another new chapter, excretory products and their elimination. So excretion, you know, what is excretion? A removal of waste products from our body. Whichever waste we are removing, especially when it comes to nitrogenous wastes, so that we call it as what? We call it as excretion. But it doesn't include undigested food material. It is coming under another process called as egestion. So mainly when you are speaking about excretory products, when you are saying, usually we speak about nitrogenous waste, okay. Along with that, the carbon dioxide removal in the form of sweat, the salt removal, everything can be considered under what? Excretory products, and that is coming under excretion, okay. So when you are seeing the types of excretion, different types, there are three major types of excretion, what we are going to discuss today. So three major types of excretion is, one is your Eureodylism, second one is your Eureodylism, third one is your Uricortalism. What do you mean by Eureodylism? If an organism is excreting the waste in the form of ammonia, like for example the fishes, because it needs ammonia to excrete needs a lot of water. So in case of fishes, amphibians, you can find they are Eureodylism in nature, which means they excrete in the form of ammonia. And then Eureodylism. So mammals, when you are saying we are Eureodylism. Eureodylism means we are excreting the waste in the form of urea. Okay. And next one is your Uricortalism, in which the excretion is done with the help in the form of uric acid. So birds, when you are seeing, they are excreting in the form of uric acid. Okay. So then there are different types of excretory organs present in different invertebrates, like you have flame cells, Malpighian tubules, nephridia, protonephridia, green glands or antennal glands. So these are excretory products in case of invertebrates. But the main excretory means not excretory products, excretory organs. But the main excretory organ, when you are seeing in case of human beings, it is kidney, isn't it? So human excretory system is the next topic what we are going to deal with. So human excretory system, when you are saying kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. Okay. Thereafter we will be discussing about the structure of kidney. Then inside the kidney there are filtering units which are filtering the waste from our blood. So that filtering units we call it as what is that? We call it as the nephrons. Okay. So the filtering unit of a kidney is what? It is nephron. So structure of a nephron also we are going to deal today. So types of excretion, the structure of excretory system, the structure of kidney and the structure of nephron are the topics that we are going to deal today. So let us move into the topic. Excretion. What do you mean by excretion? Excretion is a process by which we are eliminating the waste out of our body, excepting the undigested food. Undigested food we call it as egestion. So means giving out or expelling out the undigested food we call it as what? We call them as egestion. Other than that, the salts, urea or the other way nitrogenous waste which is eliminated from our body, that process we call it as what? We call them as excretion. Okay. Now excretory products, when you are saying they are nitrogenous in nature, which means they contain a huge amount of nitrogen, because you know protein is the one which is making up our body. It is a body building factor, and protein contain more, they contain nitrogen. So when these nitrogens are being broken down, okay, so the waste, when you are saying, it contains an excess of nitrogen, and hence the term what we use is nitrogenous waste. The nitrogenous waste can be of three types. What are they? One is ammonia, second one is urea, and third one is uric acid. The ammonia is the most poisonous one, and the least poisonous one is what? The uric acid. Okay. So this ammonia, when you are seeing, it is the most toxic form. Toxic, you know, it's a very toxic form. So this ammonia is excreted by the aquatic animals. Why? Because they contain water. So the ammonia which is released by these organisms get dissolved in water, causing less harm. Okay. The other one is your urea. So mammals, when you are seeing, we are excreting urea in the form of urine. The urea is eliminated from our body. Okay. And the birds, reptiles as well as the birds, when you are seeing, they used to give out nitrogenous waste in the form of uric acid. They do not have a fluid like urine. Instead they have what? A semi-solid urine. So that one is what? That is uric acid. Okay. So what are the three nitrogenous waste when you are saying? They are ammonia, urea and uric acid. Okay. So ammonia, urea, uric acid are the major forms of nitrogenous waste which are excreted by the animals. Ammonia is the most toxic form, I told, and it requires a lot of water so that it gets dissolved in the water and then it is eliminated. Whereas uric acid, being the least toxic, I told you, can be removed without much wastage of water. Say they are losing very less amount of water because their urine, as I said, aves urine, they are semi-solid in nature, it's not that watery. Okay. So that is regarding the three nitrogenous waste. So based on the form of nitrogenous waste which has been eliminated from the body, organism can be classified into three types. Okay. So first one is ammonotelism, second one is ureodylism, and third one is uricortalism. Ammonotelism is ammonia excretion with the help of ammonia. Ureodylism is excretion with the help of, in the form of urea, and uricortalism is the excretion with the help of what? Excretion with the help of uric acid. So moving on to the first one, that is ammonotelism. So the process of excreting ammonia is called as what? Ammonotelism. Who do this one? Most bony fishes, aquatic amphibians, aquatic insects are all ammonotelic. So these animals are ammonotelic in nature. They excrete ammonia. Okay, their excretory nitrogenous waste is in the form of ammonia. Ammonia is readily soluble in water and it is excreted by their body surface. Okay, from the body surface, this ammonia is a gas-like form which moves out from their body surface by simple diffusion. Diffusion, you know, inside the body of the animal it is more and outside it is less. In the water it is less. So from the body, the gases, ammonia, diffuse out through the pores. Wherever you can find the body surfaces, pores are present through that, or through gill surfaces also you can find gills, you know, isn't it, the breathing part. So through that also what is eliminated? Ammonia is eliminated. Okay. So they are eliminated in the form of what? Ammonium ions, which reacts with water and it is made harmless. Okay, it's not that toxic. So these are some of the organisms which has been shown that they exhibit ammonotelism form of excretion. Okay. Next is your ureodylism. So we, the mammals, terrestrial amphibians, marine fishes, when you are seeing, some marine means what? In the salt water. So most of them are ureotelic animals. Okay. So they excrete in the form of what? Urea. Okay. Ammonia produced by metabolism is converted into, so they are producing ammonia. So for excretion, when you are saying, ammonia is produced, but this ammonia is getting converted into what? It is getting converted into urea. Where? In the liver. So in these animals, the ammonia is getting converted. Ammonia in the liver is getting converted into urea. Okay, so this urea, when you are seeing, is released where? Into the blood. So from the blood capillaries of the which is present nearby to the liver, what they do is that they they absorb the urea and it is moving into the blood. From the liver it is moving into the blood. The blood is moving to the kidney. In the kidney, you know, there is a structure called as nephrons. What is the structure called? The nephrons are the filtering units. They take out this urea is getting filtered and it is moving out of our body in the form of urine. Okay. So that is how it is taking place. So ammonia in the liver is converted into urea. Urea is diffusing into the blood and it is reaching the kidney where the nephrons are converting them into urine form and then they are releasing. Okay. Along with the water it is mixed and it is being released along with the urine. So these are organisms which you can find, they are ureotelic in nature, means they excrete in the form of urine. Okay. Next is your Uricortalism. Uricortalism, I told you, they are like reptiles, birds, land snails, insects. Some of the insects are uricortelic in nature. Okay. So here excretory product is what? It is uric acid, and in the form of pellets or paste like structure it will be coming out, isn't it? So you would have seen lizards. There is no loss of water, means no loss means a very little loss of water is noted. So those organisms we call it as what? Uricortelic organism which excrete in the form of uric acid, the nitrogenous waste. So these are some of the examples of animals which are uricortelic in nature, which excretes in the form of uric acid. The next we are moving on to excretory organ and the organism. So we should know some of the excretory organ and the name of the organisms which are having those excretory organ. It can be asked as 1 mark question. Okay. So protonephridia of flame cells are the excretory organ. Like our excretory organ is what? The lungs, isn't it? The kidney, isn't it? Now here when you are seeing the excretory organs in case of platyhelminthes or rotifers, okay, some annelids, amphioxus, these all animals we have learned in the animal kingdom, isn't it? So in these cases it is nephridia, protonephridia or flame cells are the excretory organs. Nephridia is the excretory organ in earthworm and annelids. We have learned Malpighian tubes in cockroach we have discussed is the excretory organ. In prawns when you are seeing it is antennal glands or green glands which are present in the antenna. So they are excreting acting as what? The excretory organs. So in this you just learn the types of excretory organs which the organisms possess. Okay. Now moving on to the excretory system, human urinary system, the excretory system. The parts of the excretory system is very important. Now you listen. There are 2 blood vessels which are present in the excretory system. The 2 blood vessel, one which is marked red is the artery which carries oxygenated but impure blood. So artery is carrying what blood? It is carrying oxygenated, which means they contain oxygen. Okay, so artery is carrying oxygenated blood but it is impure. Impure means what? They are having the impurities. That is, their blood contains this urea, and this urea has to be excreted. So urea loaded blood is moving into the 2 kidneys with the with the help of what? It is moving with the help of the arteries. Since all the arteries means the things which are related to the parts which are related to kidney, we use the term renal. What is the term used? Renal. Okay, like parts which are confirmed to lungs, we use pulmonary, isn't it? Parts which are confirmed to heart, we use cardiac, isn't it? So like that, in case of kidney, means the excretory system, the kidney, we are using the term renal. Okay, so the renal artery is bringing oxygenated but impure blood. It is moving into the kidney, and in the kidney the filtration is taking place, and the blood is converted into deoxygenated because it is giving all the cells the oxygen, respiration is carried out and carbon dioxide is released. So now what in the veins, what will happen? The blue color which is coming out is the vein. Okay, so the renal vein. The renal vein, when you are seeing, the renal vein is leading to inferior vena cava. Last class we discussed. From bottom, the vein which is carrying, we call it as what? The inferior vena cava. From top, the vein which is carrying, we call it as superior vena cava. So this vein is carrying the deoxygenated pure blood. Pure means why? Because they have here filtration process is over and the pure blood is coming to the vein. Okay, so that is the difference what you have to note. So renal artery is carrying oxygenated but impure blood. Renal vein is carrying deoxygenated, which means carbon dioxide rich but pure blood. So through here the blood is getting filtered, and through here the blood is leaving the kidney. Okay, so through the veins it is leaving the kidney to the heart, and from there it will move to the lungs where the carbon dioxide will be given out. Clear? So renal artery and renal vein is clear. Now moving on to the other part, these 2 are the kidneys. Okay, and on the above portion of the kidney you can find a triangular structure present, that we call it as the adrenal gland. What is the gland? Adrenal gland. It is one of the endocrine glands which is triangular in nature, present above the kidney. Okay, and then you are having from the kidney there is a tubes which are coming down, isn't it? So you note that is the tube which we call it as what? The ureter. What is the tube called? It is called as the ureter. So here the urine is formed and the urine is moving through this ureter, and this urine is reaching where? The sac-like structure which is present here, which we call it as the urinary bladder. In the urinary bladder it is stored, and then thereafter you can find through an opening called as urethra, the urine is being given out. So from there what is happening? The urine is moving out. So from which part the urine is moving out? It is moving out through the urethra. So you have to remember the structure. So you are having the renal artery, the renal vein, adrenal gland. Thereafter you can find what? From the kidney you can find that ureter is coming. So just look into the spelling, ureter. From there it is moving into the urinary bladder. From the urinary bladder it will go out through the opening called as the urethra when there is a reflex, isn't it? So when it is getting filled, the urinary bladder, there will be a reflex action, and that will help in the elimination of the urine. Okay. Now moving on to the structure of the kidney, internal section of the kidney or the longitudinal section. Longitudinal section means if you are, this is the kidney, you are cutting it like this. Okay, so just like this, if you are cutting it, when you are cutting that one from the top to the bottom, just like that, and inside if you are viewing it, the kidney structure will be somewhat like this. Okay, so the kidney is divided into two portions. So the outer part we call it as the cortex, and the inner part we call it as the medulla. So the outer one is called as the cortex and the inner one is called as the medulla. Okay, so the outer cortex, so here you can find that is cortex, and the inner one is what? The inner one is called as the medulla. Okay, so in the medulla you can find this pyramid like structures. Pyramids, you know, isn't it? So this one we call it as what? Pyramids. Triangular structures we call it as pyramids. So here you can find many pyramid like structures, isn't it, in the medulla. So that pyramid like structures we call it as medullary pyramid. Okay, and this kidney, if you look into it, is being covered by a hard covering called as the renal capsule. The kidney is covered by what? The renal capsule. Now from the cortex you can find towards the medulla. So this is the cortex and this one is the medulla. So from the cortex towards the medulla there are structures which are getting entry into, that one we call it as what? The renal column. So from the cortex it is moving into the inside. Okay, so that one we call it as what? We call them as the renal column of Bertini. Okay, so the depressions which through which they are getting into the medullary pyramid, so that part we call it as what? We call it as the calyx. And in the kidney I told you, oxygenated but impure blood is brought by the renal artery, deoxygenated but pure blood is taken by what? The renal vein. Okay, and thereafter you can find the ureter. Ureter, you know, the ureter, which is the ureter here I told you, this is the ureter, isn't it? So the ureter is getting entry into, after this ureter is getting entry into, it is opening into a funnel like structure. So this is the ureter, and when it gets entry into the kidney it is opening to a funnel like structure. Now it is looking like a funnel, right? So this funnel like structure which is present, we call it as what? The renal pelvis. What do we call them? We call them as the renal pelvis. So all the structures I think I have covered, and you know, just I will read it out. Inside the kidney there are two zones. Outer I told you it is cortex, inner it is medulla. Medulla is divided into conical masses called as what? Medullary pyramids. So these are the conical masses which is called as what? The medullary pyramids, right? Projecting into calyces. So these are the structures. It is the part where it is projecting into, getting entry into. Okay. Cortex extends in between the medullary pyramid as renal columns of Bertini. Columns of Bertini. So cortex is extending into what? The medullary pyramid. So from the cortex it is entering into the medullary pyramid. So that one we call it as the renal columns of Bertini. Columns of renal columns of Bertini or columns of Bertini. Okay. And thereafter each kidney has nearly 1 million tubular structures called as nephrons. So inside this you can find each kidney there are structures called as what? The nephrons, that we will be learning the structure of nephron, okay, which is called as the functional units. Now when you are seeing this nephron is having two parts, one is the glomerulus and other one is the renal tubule. Okay, so what is glomerulus and renal tubule? You can find this is the structure of the nephron. So this is the glomerulus. You can find the Bowman's capsule with the blood capillaries. We call it as what? The glomerulus. And thereafter you can find this is the tubular structure which is present. This one we call it as what? The renal tubule. So this is the what is that? Glomerulus. And thereafter you can find the yellow color tube like structure which is present. That one we call it as what? The renal tubule. Okay. So that is regarding your nephron. Glomerulus is a tuft of capillaries formed by the afferent arteriole, a fine branch of renal artery. Blood from the glomerulus is carried away by the efferent arteriole. Okay. So how I will explain. So when you can find to the kidney. So in the kidney there are millions of what present? Nephrons are present. So these nephron, if you are seeing here, everywhere you can find millions of nephrons are present. How the nephrons will be present? So imagine this is the kidney. So this is the medulla part, this is the cortex. Here you can find on the cortex the glomerulus and all will be present. From there the tubules will start. Proximal convoluted tubule will be present here. Henle's loop will go to the medulla. Again distal convoluted tubule will come here. Thereafter they will join the collecting duct. Okay. So here you can find that structure. So this part is present over the cortex. Where it is present? Over the cortex. Okay. So many nephrons are present. All this nephron, this part is present in the cortex and this part is present in the medulla. Okay. So cortex, when you are seeing this glomerulus, how it is? It is a tuft of capillaries, I told you, isn't it? So you can find how it is going, this afferent arteriole. So actually when the blood gets in, okay, so renal artery, what is the structure? Renal artery is taking the blood into the kidney. After entering into the kidney, the renal artery divides into many minute capillaries. We call it as what? Afferent arteriole. What do we call them? Afferent arteriole. So this blood is moving to each and every, so from this is the renal artery. After moving into the kidney, they are dividing into many capillaries called as what? Afferent arteriole. Each afferent arteriole is moving into one nephrons. So like that you can find here the afferent arteriole has moved into one of the nephron. Okay. So thereafter this afferent arteriole, after moving into, divides into many capillaries. So these are the many capillaries. This is afferent arteriole getting entry into the nephron. Thereafter it is dividing into many blood capillaries. And there only what is taking place in this cup-like structure called as Bowman's capsule, yellow part, there filtration takes place. What takes place? Filtration. So blood is getting filtered here. Thereafter, after the filtration is over, the blood is moving out. Okay. So the one which is taking out from this Bowman's capsule, the blood which is coming out is carried by another arteriole, which we call it as what? Arteriole. Smallest arteries, means artery, the smaller than arteries they are. Okay. So that is being carried out by whom? This afferent arteriole. Is that clear? So through afferent arteriole it is getting in blood into each and every nephron. Afferent arteriole, from where it is coming? Renal artery is getting into the kidney, dividing into many afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole is moving into nephrons. Okay, so like that millions of nephrons are there. So oxygenated but impure blood is moving into. After moving into, they are giving it to what? This Bowman's capsule, they are filtering from the blood all the waste materials, and you can find what? Through the afferent arteriole the blood is coming out. Okay, so after coming out you can find again they are dividing into many capillaries and they are present nearer to that of the other parts of the kidney nephron. So what are the different parts where you see it is the first one when you are looking into the structure? So this is your Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule is leading to proximal convoluted tubule, then it will lead to Henle's loop, thereafter it is leading to distal convoluted tubule, and then it will be leading to collecting duct. Okay. So this is the structure you can find. So Bowman's capsule, okay, this is the proximal convoluted tubule, Henle's loop, distal convoluted tubule, collecting duct. So this part is present in the cortex and this part is present in the medulla. So you can find this is cortex and this one is outer medulla, this is what? The inner medulla. Like this the structure of nephron is. So these are, you can find the red part which is covering the Henle's loops are all what? The blood capillaries. The name of the blood capillary is vasa recta. What do we call them there? Vasa recta. Okay. So efferent artery, immediately after coming out, they divide into many capillaries and get surrounds the which one? The tubules of the nephron. So that one we call it as what? We call them as the vasa recta. Okay. So that is the blood capillaries which are covering the tubules. So what are the tubules? Proximal convoluted tubule, Henle's loop, yellow one. Okay. Distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct. Hope this is clear to you people. Next we are going to discuss about urine formation. What we are going to discuss? We are going to discuss about urine formation. Before that, structure of nephron, once more I will just say, afferent arteriole, through that the blood is moving into the nephron. The blood is dividing, the afferent arteriole is dividing into many capillaries called as glomerulus. Thereafter you can find from the glomerulus, when you are seeing one is artery is moving out, which we call it as the efferent arteriole. which after coming out divides into many capillaries called as vasha raksha. This is regarding blood. Now, in the kidney, the nephron, you can find a cup-like structure present. We call it as the Bowman's capsule, which is moving on to the next part, which we call it as what? The proximal convoluted tubule. This part is proximal convoluted tubule. This U-shaped part, we call it as the Henle's loop or loop of Henle. And thereafter, you can find this part, we call it as the distal convoluted tubule. And this tubular part, yellow part, we call it as what? The collecting duct. So, this is the structure of nephron. Hope it's clear. Now, Malpighian body. What do you mean by Malpighian body? This portion we call it as what? The Malpighian body. It contains what and all? It contains the Malpighian, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule. Combined together, we call it as what? We call them as the Malpighian body.